Remove the distinction between you and your life, between your inner and outer reality. Remove the friction, the fragmentation in your relationship to life and to what you experience within. Remove the gap, the definition that lies between you and life, between what you experience within, between what you see externally. Unite and reconcile the differences between heaven and earth, between inner and outer. Give birth to the fertility of life through a union with it. Realize the creative force and potency in what you see and experience externally and what you feel and experience internally, to create a sacred union between the two, to step away from the egoic interpretation of separation between the two, to create a union with, to dance with, to align with, to remove yourself from an egoic fight and resistance to life, and to see life's pressures and challenges as a provocation, an invitation to your highest self, to your fullest potential, to see life like fire as both destructive and creative, and to understand your role within the outcome of that creative force. For if you choose to fight life, life will be a destructive force, whereas if you see life's challenges as creative, you can and you will dance with life in harmony, in tune with its creative force, to be present within the challenges and difficulties through an understanding of what they are and acceptance of the feelings that they permit and bring up within. This is your key in your return to your kingdom, to your pathway onto heaven on earth, within and without. To return to a centeredness, to a acceptance of what is, not what could be or should be or will be, but what is, and whether that is good or bad, rough or smooth, you understand it is creative. Like an artist has a palette of colors, so does life and experience. If you limit your palette to just one color that you egoically have an attachment to, life's creative potential and potency is reduced. Life is no longer pregnant with potential, but limited to egoic shadows and definitions and limitations. So I implore you to open up to life, though it may prompt fear. But within that fear is a seed, is an invitation to unfamiliar fortune. Within that fear is a necessary experience, a necessary integration and initiation upon your potential, where life works with you, not against you, though it sometimes egoically it can be interpreted as though you are fighting against. And in some moments you will fight against, though as long as you do not make a habit or a long-term commitment to fighting, to accept many battles but not to accept a war. Because there will be moments where you fight which is natural, and the egoic temptations to resist, to be angry, are human and necessary, and part of the learning, part of the joy of life. Though do not make it life itself. Do not make anger your virtue. Do not make limitation your sight. Do not paint with only one color. Do not limit yourself voluntarily because you listen or you heed only to fear. Now is your chance to live differently, to relate differently to life's ambition, to ultimately your ambition, to establish a sacred union with you and life, with what you see and what you feel, to not see them as separate but as one. You don't see your left and your right hand as separate. You see them as a cohesive unit, and you use them accordingly, collectively, to a goal. You do not view your left and your right as foreign. When you go to hug someone, you hug them as a collective. So if what you see and what you feel is foreign and in resistance, and there's a barrier, a separation of egoic interpretation, life becomes a fight between two. But if you dissolve that barrier between what you see and what you feel, then life becomes a dance, becomes pregnant with potential, beneath sometimes rough circumstances, sometimes smooth, but again, you see the rough and the smooth as two sides of the same coin, as what pulls you up, pulls you down. And that momentum, that movement is creative. It is stimulating as it provokes you in motion to different angles and different perspectives and different experiences and different sensations and different feelings that enlighten you to new ideas and new pathways. And in doing so, you are providing yourself with the best opportunity to live your most authentic and highest expression, as you no longer live in egoic definition but in divine interpretation through a union of inner and outer, thus creating heaven on earth, not as some abstract, far away feature, but as something present, lived and expressed. And it's something to be danced with, not an intellectual pursuit. This is not something to apply intellectually, but I use the word dance meaningfully, not as some, not purely for poetic license, but meaningfully to dance. In dance, you are ultimately surrendering to a passion, like love. To dance intellectually does not make sense. To live intellectually does not make sense, though in contemporary society it is often recommended. But in living intellectually, like to dance intellectually, is limiting. It's uncreative, it's rigid, it's defined, it's static. There's no emotion, there's no provocation. In challenges and in pressures and difficulty, there's motion. And that's what the ego struggles with, because in that motion there's uncertainty. The ego wants stillness, it wants certainty, it wants stone. And in moments, you want stillness and you want certainty, you want clarity, but then you also want an equal balance of motion, of movement, of uncertainty, of difficulty, to provoke you to new territory, internally and externally, to ultimately to transform you. If you resist difficulty, if you resist challenges through negative egoic interpretations, you are ultimately resisting transformation. You're ultimately resisting the seed within you, that holds your potential, whereupon layers of yourself must be shed to reveal the essence, like a pearl within a shell, like as the petals of a flower unfold and reveal its sacred center. This is very much like that. So if you take anything from this video, it is to learn to dance, both literally, I would say, to dance more, but also to dance in your life internally and externally, in the sense that I mean to be loose. If good things happen, to not grip too tightly. If bad things happen, not to fight too harshly. To have more of a middle way, to be a bit loose, to not attach yourself or to fight too much. Because obviously it is going to happen. We're going to have some attachments and moments, and we're going to be kicking and screaming at others, and that's part of life. But to be loose, to allow for motion and to allow for dance, just so you are open to the opportunity of transformation. So good luck. Until next time, goodbye.